Mabuhay, good morning everybody. It's a privilege and honor to be invited for the second time to present a webinar on online education. Thank you very much GTX Academy, especially Mr. Jesus Obana. Let me introduce myself. I'm Alvin here from Singapore. I'll be presenting the first part on the online educational framework, eKAMI framework, and later on my associate Jarre Chan will present on some e-learning platforms and also on Center for Professional Development platform. Alright, one of the good things about today's webinar is everything is being shot, PowerPoint slides, everything is being developed on a smartphone. I just want to prove point that online learning, online education need not be very high tech. You just need a simple Android smartphone like what I have now, what I'm using now. I'm actually using a made in China under $100 Android handphone. No iPhone 11, no Apple stuff. It's just a very affordable under $100 handphone, and I've used it to develop the slides, to record this whole presentation, and I'll be talking more on why I think the smartphone would be the first entry point to online education around Asia. Alright, without further ado, let me start the ball rolling. Today's content, I'll be talking about teachers training using the eKAMI framework. How do we use eKAMI framework for online education? I'll be talking about MVT, using eKAMI to train teachers for online education, and also how do we roll out the plans for eKAMI in a district, a country, or a province. Alright, first and foremost, what is eKAMI? eKAMI means we in the Tagalog language. We. As a famous African proverb, you say, it takes a village to raise a child. So I think it takes us, we, all of us, the Ministry of Education, the government, parents, schools, students, me, every one of us, to educate a child, whether in the Philippines or anywhere in the world. So what does eKAMI means? Alright, eKAMI stands for K, knowledge, A, assessment, M, mentorship, I, interest. Let me explain more in details. I have done lots of teachers training around Asia since 1998. I was formerly from the Ministry of Education in Singapore, and most of the time I train teachers on how to apply information technology, how to build Web 2.0 classrooms, and currently, of course, because of the pandemic, online education is a big thing. But actually, I started online education in year 2001. I left the Ministry of Education in year 2000 to develop an online educational platform. Yes, year 2000, there was no YouTube, there was no Google, there was no Facebook. Pretty much then the most popular name year 2000 was Yahoo and probably eBay. But unfortunately in year 2000 there was .com crash, and I lost my funding, and my dream of building one of the Asian's first education platform was dashed. But actually, since then I've been experimenting, researching, developing a lot of online education platform, and I've been fortunate to work with online education providers around the world. And that's why currently now in Singapore, I'm actually going one step further. I'm actually doing my R&D, research and development in artificial intelligence in education, building robots, educational robots, or what I call AI tutor bot, which I will show maybe later. And this is my main interest is educational technology and things like that. All right. So online education is not very high tech, and I want to dispel the myth so that all of you are ready to embrace online education. All right. So let me do it step by step. All right. Usually, having done our teachers training, so I do teachers training in terms of face-to-face physical classroom teachers training. So when I train new teachers in Asia, I develop using very simple framework. So eKAMI is my framework. So first I teach them about K, knowledge. It means I train the teachers in the subject content. For example, are they teaching English, Maths and Science for primary school? Are they teaching history, geography for secondary school, literature? Or at a tertiary level, say tourism, hospitality, which I teach, business studies, economics, and more. So different subject content with different ways of teaching and different ways of learning. But whatever it is, there must be desired outcomes of every lesson. So I will teach teachers how to develop their lesson plan. Next, I also teach them how to get resources. What kind of resources should they gather? Where should they get the resource? And how to use them, how to get them, how to use them. All right. So resources are pretty easy nowadays. If it's in a school system, maybe your school will provide you with the textbook and assessment book. Some teachers who are more proactive would collect newspaper cutting, magazine cutting, and well, in the internet era, teachers will go and collect YouTube videos and articles and case studies. Okay. Next, teaching methodology. How do you teach? So I teach teachers how to use multiple intelligence framework by Harvard University, Professor Gardner. I also train them in problem-based learning, collaborative learning, think, pair, share, and more. All right. As I said, today I'm not giving you the training. I'm just giving you a skeleton of what eKAMI is all about. All right. Next, I teach teachers how to set objectives, learning objectives with their students, so that it becomes more learner centric. So what I'm trying to train teachers nowadays, especially in the last 10 years, is that teachers should become more of facilitators, a guide by the side, rather than a sage on the stage. All right. So usually the teaching methodology is more on facilitation. Next, assessment. Well, after giving all the contents, teaching them the subject, how do we assess whether the students are learning? So there are two big kinds of assessment. One is formative assessment. The other is summative assessment. So formative assessment means what have you learned during this lesson, while summative assessment means what have you learned throughout the whole course, throughout the whole module. For example, the mid-year exam or the final year exam. So formative assessment could be if after you taught them fraction, addition or fraction, you give a small test, a mini test on addition of fraction. Alright? So assessment can come in many forms. It can be MCQ, multiple choice question, fill in the blanks, short sentence, essay questions, usually for primary school and secondary school. Probably at the tertiary level, there will be more project work, presentation. For example, my business student will develop a business website, will develop apps, will do case studies. While my tourism hospitality student will also be developing tourism website, apps for events management, and so forth. So the assessment is not so one-dimensional, where you're just doing a testing on paper. It can be also on projects. All right. Next, a very important part of my teachers training is also on mentorship. So I train teachers how to manage the classroom, how to make sure that the class is disciplined, not too much noise, not too much disturbance. And what's most important is how to motivate students, how to inculcate positive attitude in, especially for lifelong learning, and provide guidance and constructive feedback as we go through the learning process with them. So this mentorship is actually the educational psychology aspect of my teachers training, which I think is very important. Unfortunately, most teachers focus on the knowledge aspect and the assessment aspect. Well, I feel that the mentorship, the education, is the psychological, the behavioral, the emotional aspect is actually very, very important in becoming a good teacher and developing and nurturing good talent students. All right. Next, hold on. All right. Hold on. So sorry. I'm going to just slide back. I have butterfingers. All right. In terms of training, in terms of interest, the last I is interest. How do you make your lessons more interesting, fun? How do you make your lesson not just educational but entertainment as well? So edutainment is what I always encourage my new teachers to say, hey, let's provide edutainment for your students. If you do not want your students to be caught sleeping in class or chit-chatting or playing handphone games while you're teaching, well, make it fun. So how do I make it fun in a physical classroom? I have games, educational games that meet the desired outcomes. I have pop quiz, hands-on learning, for example, experiments, and I also bring them out for learning journey. For example, for primary school students, I bring them out to zoo, to the botanical garden to look at flowers and stuff like that. And for tourism hospitality students, I may bring them to hotels and restaurants to do case study, to do observation of how to serve your guests, what is customer service and stuff like that. And especially for my business student, my student will go and visit companies, talk to CEOs, and talk to entrepreneurs. And the last part to create the interest and the motivation is to reward students. And then, for example, the Dean's List Award in the university, I will reward student for the top student of the month, best progress of the month, things like that. So this is how eKAMI is used for teachers training in Singapore and in Asia. So this is what I do very often. But the thing is, now with online education, how do we do that? So for me, it's very simple. I still use the same eKAMI framework for online teaching, for online teaching too. All right. Before we go to that, let's go through this thing. So I have what you call MVT, minimum viable technology. So how do I apply how do I apply the eKAMI framework for online education? By using this term called MVT. So what is minimum viable technology? So why do I want something called MVT? Very simple, because most schools and governments and Ministry of Education will have resource constraint, whether it's monetary, money, platform tools. They have infrastructural problem. Not everywhere you can have good Wi-Fi, strong Wi-Fi, and there's also a resistance to change among the teachers and students, and also the learning curve. And that is why I try to make online education as simple as possible. So based on my research, I tend for people going in the beginning of online education, to start off their online education, I usually recommend everything to be done on a smartphone, on an Android phone. All right. So just like me teaching a class, I have used just a simple smartphone like what I'm using now to teach the class, to develop lessons, to develop online educational lessons. And my students, most of them have handphone. They will be able to answer the question, even write an essay, do their PowerPoint presentation, do group presentation, all just by using their handphones. All right. So I would say that smartphone is the minimum viable technology, at least in Asia, because unlike say in the West and America, whereby most of them may have a laptop or a laptop or notebook in a desktop. I find that in Asia, most of us tend to have a smartphone more than anything else. So, how do I use eKAMI to train teachers for online education, which I call eKAMI? So I will train teachers to how to develop online content very simply, just by using a handphone. How to manage an online classroom using simple online platforms and tools. Well, I will build a platform and allow teachers to learn and students to learn in the very simple way. If they know how to use a handphone, they will know how to use the same handphone, the same smartphone, to teach and to learn. So I always say that the smartphone is the device used by students and teachers. So any difference? No difference. Just e-knowledge, e-assessment, e-mentorship, e-interest. It is the same thing. All right. So I just want to briefly go through with you. So we have knowledge just now. Okay. Now with e-knowledge, that means how do we develop a simple online lesson? Where do we get all the online resources? I will show you where to get resources from YouTube, from articles, from all the different places. How to use online resources legally without copyright infringement, because there are legal issues if you use certain things that's not that doesn't belong to you. And also how to encourage students to explore the internet for more ideas. So usually I'll train teachers how to embed videos in the website, how to build a simple website and things like that. And they're pretty simple actually. All right. Probably the training will take 1-2 days, and the teachers will slowly become an expert in this whole. I would say that within 1-2 weeks of training, or even lesser, I've given lesser training, and a whole eKAMI platform could be used by a school or by a district. Next, assessment, e-assessment. So what are the types of online assessment tools needed? So we can have online quizzes, online multiple choice question. So how to do team projects, and online presentation. Everything is very, very easy. It's as easy as shooting your own video, taking a selfie photo. It's as easy as that. All right. And one of the best part of using online tools is that I'm a lazy person. So most of my assessment, which I give to my students, are auto marking. That means I don't mark the homework. I give them homework, and all the homework is actually marked automatically by the computer itself. Alright, so this is how I do it. Next, mentorship. How do you manage an online class? How do you manage the discipline in the online class? How do you know or not know whether a student is playing online games in the class? What kind of communication tools do you use? Okay, for me it's very simple. I use WhatsApp. If I see a student that's not learning well, I'll probably WhatsApp him and talk to him after the class. It's the same thing. So by using WhatsApp, by using simple communication tools, whether it's on the comments, on the blogs and things like that, or just WhatsApp, I can provide guidance and constructive feedback to my learners. So the mentorship I feel personally that it's easier for students to relate to me online than offline. I'm not sure why, because my students tend to relate to me better online, because they feel they can tell me their true feelings, and I can talk to them. It's just so happened that this is the way. Alright? Next, how do I spark interest in online class? So what kind of online educational games are suitable for my students? So I sometimes build online games for my students, which I will teach teachers how to build simple online games, simple online say spelling bee and all this, how to give online batches to your students for those who are doing well. So using simple online tools, I can also reward students online for positive behavior reinforcement. Alright, so basically eKAMI with an online twist to it. eKAMI. So what are the benefits of using eKAMI online platform? First and foremost, it's very easy to adopt, easy to learn. It's a modular system, smooth transition. It's a plug and play. It doesn't matter what system you're using now, or what kind of style you're teaching your class, whether you're in the kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, middle school, tertiary, corporate even, or technical vocational school. We can just go in and plug and play the thing. We will not disrupt your teaching model in class, because it's not about the pandemic or COVID-19 pandemic. I recommend that that every curriculum will have 30% online, whether pandemic or no pandemic. Alright, so I find that eKAMI is a very cheap and cheap way, affordable way to go into online education, and best of all, you'll be able to reap the good positive returns of a good online education for your nation. Right? So those of you who are interested to know more the eKAMI framework or eKAMI framework for teachers training, you can actually find me, or I think the best is you can contact Mr. Jesus Obana, the leader for GTX Academy, and tech leader, and he'll be here. Alright, so guys, thank you for your kind attention. It's been wonderful telling you guys, sharing my ideas, and I hope that I will able to see more online education being used in Philippines. And well, next I will hand over to my associate Jared Chan to talk and to give you all a demonstration of the online learning model. Thank you so much.